Like when it comes to like obviously, so one of the main topics going right back to the start that I kind of wanted to go in a wee bit more depth is actually about like your advice on traveling and experiencing new places. Is there anything that you've kind of learned through working in all these different places and different cities and countries? Like, is there any advice you would give to students who maybe want to give a new culture a go?
Be open-minded. Do
Perfect.
your research. Do
Yeah.
your research. Just yeah. Honestly, I would probably say just try to do as much research as you can. I mean, thankfully, again, we have Google, so it's really easy to do. But just try to research as much as you can. Reach out to people, and that's actually something I forgot to mention earlier when we talked about, I don't know, but just being a student. I think like don't forget to reach out to your heroes. Like if you see an artist whose work you really admire, don't be scared to reach out to them and ask them questions. A lot of artists are very approachable, and they might be a little bit busy, so it might take some time to get back. Might take a little bit to get back to you, but people are very open and very usually very just excited to talk to different people. So
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that out. I wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Of course.
but yeah, no, traveling, researching, compare cost of living, especially very important, because salaries don't necessarily, you might go to another country and you might take a 50% pay cut, but because cost of living is so much cheaper, you might actually be doing better there than you were before.
Hmm.
So, doing a cost of living is very, very important. Being aware of how of budgets of what you need, what you're looking for, how the housing market is, grocery costs, like all those things are super important. Health insurance, is it included, is it not, what kind of what are the taxes like, I mean, all the boring adult stuff basically. Just
Yeah.
make sure you do your research because it's very important.
There's a lot to
um,
take in.
yeah, there's a lot, but you want to at least do your research so you have an idea, and then when you get to the country, then it's you know, just be prepared that you're gonna make some mistakes.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm in Sweden right now, and they're very big on their queuing system.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a big thing, and I had no idea before. But basically, whenever, like almost in every place, there is like a little number ticket thing that you pull a number from, and then you wait for your number to pop up.
Right. I had no idea. Right. Awesome.
No idea, no idea. I did not know it. So
Yeah.
at one time, I just nobody was standing in front of the counter. So me, of course, not knowing any better, went right up to the counter. And then I was, and then yeah, I got an evil look, and the system was explained to me,
All
and
right.
and then I was like, all right, I'm sorry, didn't know any better. So now I know. So just, I mean, be prepared for those kind of things. They can happen, but I mean, it's fine. You make that mistake once and not
Yeah.
again.
Make sure to learn the culture. Number one tip for today on the podcast. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. Because when it comes to because I'm actually so I've been planning for a long time. Like I want to move to New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
It's literally been my goal like my whole life. Like I've always just wanted to live in New Zealand. Simple as that. It's just so I've just been figuring things out, trying to because my mum lives in Australia, and because my family are like always traveling all the time, and I've been always trying to figure out obviously these questions for students for a long time in terms of like the like obviously timing is so important, like you said. Like there's so many things that make the move easier, but at the end of the day it's like the fact that you've had the courage to like give all these things a go, it's such a great thing to see, because it shows to all these students who are listening in, like there's all these opportunities out there. It just takes that first step to make that leap to go, right, you know what, I'm going to give Sweden a go and go try this job at Massive, try the things doing like assistant director, etc., all these things. And it's all about that first step. So like when it comes to the whole topic of traveling, like if you want to go to Spain or wherever it is, America, obviously like, there's a lot of things to take into account, but like life's too short. Make the most of it. Give it a try. You're only going to figure out if it's the right thing for you if you try it.
Yeah, really well said. And it's mean, the great thing is with what we do is that we actually have the opportunity to to get another job in a different country and have them help pay for it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and not a lot of jobs, have, or not a lot of careers have that opportunity. So it's, if unless of course, once you have a family, things can be it can be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
But if you're willing and able, I mean, you can pretty much travel the world doing what we do, which is pretty awesome.
Hmm.
So I think it would be a shame not to try it out at least for a little bit.
Yeah, like you just need to try it once because like it's like what we're saying. Like you have there's so many possibilities. Obviously, I understand things are like situation based, and obviously the main one, money. We all need money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't live without it. But like that's the thing as well. Like there's one thing that I don't think I discussed enough on the podcast is like you have to like be smart with your money and like save. Like I know it has it's so obvious to say, and you're probably wondering like, yes, I understand that, but if you be careful with your money, really think about using the money that you save and putting that towards your dream and like figuring out the answers that you're trying to figure out, because like that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. And it's like I understand like we all want certain possessions and stuff, and it's great to treat yourself, but if you've got like a main goal, like invest into it, give it the time that it deserves, give it the money that it deserves, because at the end of the day, like you're only going to like, how can I say it, like you just don't want to have any regrets. Like that's the way I always like to say it.
Yeah, I always actually like to say that have at least 6 months worth of savings.
As like a
So
backup, yeah, definitely, I completely agree.
sort of as a ballpark number,
Hmm.
it's give yourself 6 months. God forbid something happens, but 6 months is generally, enough. Should you lose your job? Should you want to change your job? Any of those things, that you have peace of mind and that you can figure out where to go next. It's like 6 months is a good time.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for saying that, because that means a lot. Because I understand that there's all age groups listening to the podcasts, and you never know what could hit you. Sometimes, for example, I remember when you were saying in your podcast, not podcast, in one of the talks about Rhythm and Hues,
Yeah.
and like when you said about obviously being like planning, thinking ahead, and I'm based on everyone I've talked to in regards to film. Films kind of like I love film, but I understand that's quite unpredictable at times in regards to like how many hours you could work, etc., or like how many like if there's a job available, like you might only have a job for a certain amount of months. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the films can change so much. They're quite they're quite mobile, quite flexible.
Yeah,
Put it nicely. A little volatile at times too, but no, they can change very quickly. And I mean, reshoots can happen. So many things can happen. But it's actually more common in film to have short-term contracts than there is long-term contracts. So a lot of times, you're looking at potentially 3 months, 6 months, those kind of contract terms,
yeah,
which is not a lot. So you need to kind of be smart about it. You need to be also, again, if you're on a contract basis, make sure you ask for a higher rate than you do when you're a permanent employee. Those kind of things, they all kind of come and play with that.
yeah. No, that's awesome. Cause this is a great topic. I love this topic. This is something that I haven't really dived into. See, this is the thing about doing podcasts is like, especially when you do so many episodes, you try to think of different topics, and then when the guest brings up an awesome topic, you're like, thank you so much.
I'm glad I can help.
Because it's like when it comes to like planning ahead, it goes such a long way, and obviously it's the smartest thing that you can do. Like you can never overlook it. And like when it comes to like looking for jobs and stuff, like do you like obviously what you were saying there, so like say for example you're given a job that says you're so it's a 6 month job, do you like look always look for other jobs like straight early on, or do you just wait until like the job's almost finished? Like how do you kind of plan things?
Well, it's hard with the planning part, especially because sometimes what can happen is that contracts get extended.
Oh yeah, of course,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so there's that. So I tend to not do too much planning when it comes to that. I mean, because once you're in the studio, you kind of get a feel of, oh, there's more work coming in,
Yeah.
or I feel like the work is sort of starting to fizzle out. So you start the process, you kind of get a sense of, whether you'll be able to stay or whether, they might have to let you go. So besides getting that sort of feeling, I also start, maybe starting to having the conversation. Hey, by the way, my contract runs out in like 2 weeks. What do you think? That sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like I start like 2 weeks before the contract ends. I start to like put the feelers out, see what's going on, see if something else is coming in. And if not, then I start, putting up the available starting, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then I see what else is going on. But to be honest, like the majority of my jobs I've gotten it's all been through word of mouth. It's been a lot through recommendations.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
Those
so a lot of
connections.
times, yeah, and it's really important. I think people forget how important that it really is. So I think it's reaching out to my friends and be like, hey, by the way, I'm going to be available. Do you guys know anything? I think that does honestly that does so much. That does most of the work.
Yeah, it goes such a long way.
Yeah, it really does.
Do you think so? This is one subject that I'm aware a lot of students particularly struggle with, especially early on, especially when they have no experience, or maybe they've just had a year experience. When it comes to like valuing your worth, like so obviously you were saying, obviously once the contract's finished or whatever, and or maybe you're wanting to stay, or maybe they want to keep you, and trying to understand like how much you're worth. Is there any things that you've learned over the years that kind of helps you kind of increase your salary, or I know it's a bit of a difficult question to answer, but what's your thoughts on understanding how to know how much you're worth?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Sorry, it's a big
No, no,
question.
no, 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 it's all good, it's all good. No, because I think it's a tough one because as you get older, your priorities change.
Yep.
It's maybe salary all of a sudden is not necessarily the most important thing anymore. Maybe time off is more important to you. It's an evolving thing. It's when you first get started, you probably don't have the leverage to ask for a really high salary because you don't have anything to back it up.
Yep.
So, in the beginning, asking for a higher salary is going to be harder. But if you feel like you're proving yourself, and you talk to your leads and your supervisors, and you get good feedback from them, that you feel like you're getting more and more responsibility, even more responsible, like a responsibility that some like a junior should not have. That's when you can starting to push a little bit. That's when you're like, hey, I've been doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. These are all, in the job description of an intermediate, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd like to, move on to that title, or like, what do I need to do to get to that title? And, how can I, and this sort of the salary I would like to get, or, what can we get, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to doing research, which is sometimes harder, especially when it comes to salary. Some people are very closed off and are not really willing to talk about, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. But you have Glassdoor. There's certain online. If you just do a Google search, again, Google is my friend. If you do a Google search, you can generally find some general numbers, and then also you talk to your friends. Get some input from them, see how much they make. And then and then you start that conversation. Now, I will always say this: it's always harder to get your rate increased at the same studio.
Okay.
That is always harder. It is always easier to jump to another place and get your rate increased. That is the fastest way to get a higher salary.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, but it's very much a thing. If you want to get a quick rate increase, you need to jump studios. You need to jump around. Now, be careful with jumping around too quickly, too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at a resume and you see that you've been at places for only a couple of months, then the question is, why? Is there something wrong? Did they didn't want to keep you, or was there a problem? Why do you keep jumping around so much? So you have to kind of gauge it a little bit to make sure it doesn't look like you're a problem, and you're just doing it to get a better rate.
That's a great point to bring up, because no, that's just, thank you so much for saying that, because I understand that obviously for example, one of the most brought up things ever in student education is the whole debate about experience, and or the whole kind of world of like experience and where to get it and how to kind of approach it, and understand that sometimes, especially for students who are obviously how can I say it? Like obviously they're trying to get experience, but they can't because obviously the whole caveat of how do I get experience if no one's accepting me to get experience, which is always a hard one. But if you do have a chance to get a job, think things through in terms of like obviously, maybe it might not be the job for you at the time, but ask yourself, right, is it more valuable for you to stay just for a wee bit longer, just so you look a bit more appealing, like Sonja's saying, when it comes to maybe checking things on like the CV and LinkedIn in terms of time. Like a lot of things get taken into account when a recruiter's looking at your job experience and your portfolio. It's not just the artwork. It's obviously you as a person. It goes such a long way, and you just have to be smart with these things, and obviously understand that at the end of the day, people are wanting to hire you for like a long time normally. Obviously, it depends. I'm not sure. Like, well, obviously we talked about it in terms of film, but when it comes to studios, like obviously studios want to employ you and keep you. Would you agree on that? Like, I know it's probably might sound like a stupid question, but obviously like they want you to do the job, etc. But people are like a lot of studios looking for like a long term kind of plan.
I would hope so. I think so.
Yeah,
I can't talk for studios. I would like to think so.
yeah,
Um, I feel like a lot of studios do a lot of things, like mentorships and things like that. That I think is very, it's for that. But I think at the end of the day, it's also just it's a very natural thing, especially since being an artist, being creative. It's important to stay inspired, and going back to one of the things you said in the very beginning, change is something that can get you inspired again. So
yeah.
it's very much a part of our life, and I think staying at one studio. I mean, I admire the people that can do that. I'm definitely not one of them. I like to experience different things. I like I
I'm the
like
same.
change.
Yeah,
I like change. I like different challenges. I like to switch it up. So yeah. So I think probably studios do, but I think it's also very much in the nature of what we do that I think we embrace change and we look for change.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to finish that part of the podcast, because at the end of the day, it's like the most important thing should be you. Like you should always take you as priority number one. Personally, this is what I think. You should always prioritize yourself over the studio. Like if you should know what you want, in terms of what you want to fulfill in your career, and do exactly the thing that you love. So whatever it is, give it the time that it deserves. And obviously, we all need to have a living. Once again, going back to the whole topic of being able to be stable, like that's obviously the most important. Like you need to be able to eat, you need to be able to sleep, have a roof over your head, etc. You name it. That's obviously the priorities, but make sure that obviously you're doing things for the right reasons and making the most of your time. As always, on the Short Art podcast, we do a thing called 500 seconds. So, Sonia, basically it's a fun section of the podcast, a bunch of random questions. So the rules is, so it's literally, you can say pass at any time. If you don't have an answer, you don't answer, it's okay, just say pass. And it's basically kind of like a mixture between like would you rather and just a bunch of fun random questions. Are you ready?
Yes, but actually, I wanted to say one last thing.
Oh
Because
yeah, on you go. Yeah, of course.
so it was really nice what you said earlier, but I kind of wanted to follow up on that and just sort of say, like, just going back to staying at a studio, like watching, like, not switching too quickly. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to say, like, if you're in a situation that is not healthy, it's not a good environment, do not stay at the studio
Yeah.
for the sake of it looking good on your resume. Like, do not do that. If you're in an unhealthy work environment, in a toxic work environment, if it's unhealthy to you,
Mm-hmm.
then get out. Like, don't stay just because you think it will look better on your resume if you stay longer. So don't
Yeah.
do that. I just wanted to mention that because I'm like, the way I said it, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that people don't stay in an unhealthy work environment. That is not good. It's like, think about yourself, make sure you're the most, focus on you, make sure you're happy, make sure you're good.
Yeah. Like that's the thing as well. Like I think like obviously a lot of people want jobs, and I completely understand that. But there's nothing wrong with just having like a normal job while you work on your craft, if you know what I mean, or like going back to a normal job. Like
Yeah, of
say,
course not.
like there's like I think a lot of people feel that they have to be in the industry all the time, and then it's like no, you can, as long as you have proof on your portfolio, you're fine. Like there's no
No.
panic. I think so many people instill that pressure on them for some reason.
No, and honestly, and you really don't. I mean, actually, I get a lot of. I think we have. So my fiance is actually. He's a concept artist and an art director. So and he has one of his team, one of his concept artists. He was a plumber before.
Right? Amazing. Yeah, great.
I think it's whenever I get into a job interview and I hear, people with different backgrounds, I'm like, that is fantastic, because that whatever it is that you did, you will have learned something, some qualities that can be beneficial, whether it's like, again, organizational skills, or whether it's people skills, very important. That is hugely important.
Yeah.
Customer service skills, whatever it is, all of those skills are applicable to what we do because we work with people on a daily basis.
Yeah. Because like that's the thing as well, is like when it comes to like checking things on LinkedIn, like I guarantee you they're looking at like the previous, like you said, like the previous jobs people worked at. So like if you've worked on the tills, or you've whatever it is, stocking shelves or whatever it is, like they'll still see that there's value in there, in the sense that, right, he's done work, he's not doing like nothing, or she's not doing nothing, whatever it is, as long as you've got proof that you can talk to people, like Sonja's saying, and showing that you're a nice person. Like that's obviously the most important thing. As long as you're respectful, you're kind, like all these things are like the most important part, because when it comes to the whole concept of working in a team, like you want to be able to work with people. If you struggle with that, then I just give it the time that it deserves, and realize that you don't have to rush things, and be patient with it, most importantly.
Yes, I agree. And also, just yes, it is obviously important to get along with people, but it's also to be shy. It's okay to be shy, and it's okay to be maybe a little bit more introverted. All of those things are fine as well.
Yeah.
It's more about, it's just being able to also, receive critique, also being, when there's a self-reflected. It's I think that's so important, and we don't talk about that enough, I think. But it's, really figuring out who you are as a person, like what makes you happy, what makes you excited, what what tasks or what skills or what do you look forward to do every day, like figuring those things out. As soon as you have them figured out, you'll know exactly which environment will be good for you, which environment will make you thrive, and on the opposite, which environment will make you not happy and unhappy, make you go depressed and things like that. Because we're all very different, and we all have different things that just, make us tick, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think the sooner you figure that out, what it is, the better off you're going to be, because the better you can the quicker you can hone in on, the career path, or, on your successful career path, because what will make you successful.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Because like that's the thing as well. It's like when it comes to like the whole thing about self-critiquing, and also getting feedback and stuff, it's about trying to like how can I say it? Obviously you learn as you go along, like you adjust to certain scenarios, and it goes back to what we discussed earlier about like adapting and stuff. But like all these things become irrelevant if you're not being honest with yourself and being direct. Like it's great to obviously challenge yourself with new things and stuff, but if it's nothing that you have a buzz about, or something that you're not going to want to continue to pursue, then it's pointless. And you want to constantly always be obviously striving to achieve, most importantly, just having fun doing what you're doing. Because if you're wasting time on something that's just not you, then there's no point. And like you nailed it there perfectly when you said about the self-critique thing, because there's so many artists. So I've said this a few times on the podcast. So like my upbringing was all sport orientated, so I was always surrounded by people who was always like confident. I was really lucky to have like good coaching, and it's one thing I like to say is like surrounding yourself with the right people. And like I'm not sure what your thoughts are on when it comes to like obviously it'd be great to kind of hear like your thoughts on like talking to people and getting to know like the right people, because I remember you were saying earlier about obviously reaching out to like your favorite artists and stuff. It'd be kind of great to kind of maybe talk about that as well.
Yeah, I reached out to Dylan Cole at one point, and I asked if he would when I first just got started into matte painting, and I sent him some horrendous work. I mean, oh my God! And when I first got started, I did, let's just say I didn't quite figure out atmospheric perspective at this point yet. Right. So I sent him some horrendous work, really bad stuff when I look back at it now. And he was just so kind, and he gave me some feedback and some pointers, and it wasn't much, But just a couple of pointers, and it just sort of made it all clear to me, and all of a sudden I just got it for some reason. I don't know why, but for some reason just something just clicked the way he talked about it, and it was awesome and it was great. So it's and yeah, that happens every day. You talk to people and you get their ideas, or they tell you about a different technique, and you're just like, oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Never thought about it. That's great. So it's really you get inspiration, and you get sort of you learn more from all around you, and I think that's really cool. It's a pretty special industry that we're in. It's pretty tough at times too, but as much as it takes, it also gives back.
Yeah, like that's always a scary one though. It's like say you've been figuring something out for ages, and then somebody just teaches you a method that does it in like a click of a button, and you've been doing it for like 3 months. You're like, if only I knew that before, it'd be great.
Yes, but at least now you know it, and now next time it'll go that much faster.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. It's there's so many things like in my journey, like I just wish I knew the magic button or the magic shortcut, and you're just like, but that's just like you said, it's just part and parcel of the whole journey. It's like, but that's like the beauty of it, and like that's the reason why I do podcasts, is because like it kind of, how can I say it? Not kind of gives, well, it kind of jumps people, well, helps people kind of jump the gun in a way. It kind of helps them kind of learn things or pick up things that they didn't expect or that they didn't anticipate at all to occur in the industry, and that's the great thing about it. Thank you so much for everything you said in the podcast. It's been great having you on. So as always, like I said, so would you be ready for 500 seconds?
Yes, sorry. Now we're ready.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So like I said, so you can pass at any time. And here we go. Right. So favorite film and why?
Jurassic Park, dinosaurs.
Oh, really? You're a dinosaur
Yes.
fan? Oh, yes.
Oh my god, I love dinosaurs.
Same. Brilliant. Finally, someone who loves dinosaurs on the podcast. I'm so happy. What's your favorite dinosaur?
Not T-Rex. No, sorry. Triceratops.
Triceratops. Good choice. Awesome.
Yes.
You've made my day in the podcast now.
I'm glad.
Anything animal related or dinosaurs or sharks, that's what my life's like really about, to be honest. Like I'm literally just doing animals, like everything at the moment is just animal based.
That's awesome.
Right. Speaking of animals, what actually we'll leave that for the next one. No, actually we'll go with cats or dogs.
Dogs,
perfect. Would you rather be able to breathe underwater or fly?
Fly.
Why would you prefer flying?
I'm terrified of heights, so I think it's a good way to get over it.
Good answer. Right, so this is one I've never asked on the podcast. This is a fun one. So, would you rather a lifetime subscription to Netflix or an unlimited supply of Starbucks?
Netflix.
Okay. Why Netflix?
Well, I can make my own coffee.
Oh, yeah, that's very true, very true. See, I never thought one through, did I? Favorite game?
Mass Effect 2.
Oh, I've never played that.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I recommend. I mean, now it's a little bit outdated, but the characters are fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'll have to try out. There's so many. So that's my biggest culprit doing the podcast. Like, obviously, I bring on lots of people from games, but I don't play a lot of games. Like,
right.
I know you'll be shocked, believe it or not. I've always been. I've saying this to. So we had Josh Lynch on the podcast last.
And yeah, I know Josh.
Josh is incredible, by the way.
He's a good guy. Such a good guy.
It's such a good laugh talking to him. Shout out to Josh Lynch. Make sure to give him a follow. But it was just like I was just talking to him about the same question, like what is his favorite game, and I just said to him like mine's Call of Duty, because I've literally just always just been 3D. Like I just love 3D, like making art. And like that, like for example, ZBrush is just my thing. Like I just like I could just have my whole day just in ZBrush. Like it doesn't have to be anything else. So like I need to get up to date with so many games. But like I still love games, but there's so many games I need to play.
They take a lot of time. I mean, that's definitely a big thing. I think the reason why Mass Effect 2 sort of stood out was that it actually got me through when my dad died.
Right. Okay.
It was my escape. It was my escape a little bit from reality. The story was interesting. The characters felt real. It was just really good writing.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I think that one it has a special place in my heart.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So, right, so we've got four more questions. Right, so would you rather go to the moon or go to Mars?
Mars.
Ooh, right, why Mars?
Well, it has better looking environment
Oh,
from what I've seen. It looks cooler. It looks cooler, and it's further away.
yeah, further away from Earth. Perfect. Get me off this planet.
What the hell? I mean, the storms look cool. Has some cool cloud formations.
Yeah.
Good for reference.
I bet you're like, I did not expect this on the podcast. This is what I say to everyone, because like ever since I started the podcast, I was like, how could I do a different take? How could I put people under pressure, just put them on the spot? So I was like,
no, but this is fun. This is fun. I like this. This is good.
It's just a different random section, because like when I found this, so I was just like, I will scroll through all these questions, like if I had to choose, like I would only choose Mars just because of Total Recall.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally the only reason, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like I love that film. Anyone who hates that film, how dare you watch this podcast? It's an amazing film, okay? I love it. Great film. That was literally just my reason. I was like, you know what? I could ask her that. Right. What's one thing you can't live without?
Chocolate.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Good choice. Is it like that or pizza?
Yeah, pizza's a close runner-up, but chocolate is definitely the number one.
Perfect. Do you have a specific chocolate that you like?
No, I'm trying to. I'm actually getting married later on this year, so I'm on a diet now, and I had to switch to dark chocolate. So I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying, but I still have chocolate, like one piece a day at least.
You've got to. You've got to.
Yeah.
I no offense to people who like dark chocolate, but I just don't understand it. It tastes horrible to me personally.
It's not amazing, but it's that's how much I love my fiance. It's my compromise for getting into that dress. So dark chocolate with sea salt, that helps. That helps quite a bit.
Congratulations. That's great news. I hope you have a great wedding. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's gonna be fun.
Right. This is like the most randomest one. Right. Would you rather get the hiccups every time you laugh or sneeze every time you cough?
Sneeze every time I cough.
Sneeze every time you cough. Right. Why?
Because I laugh all the time. That would be really annoying if I had a hiccup all the time.
Oh, you'd be screwed.
Coughing I don't do so often. So yeah, I can live with that.
See this is the reason why women are just way smarter than men. Because I would never have thought that through at all. Like I know, like maybe it's just me. I'm not smart at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
No, I doubt. No. We just think about things differently, and that's all good.
Just thinking ahead. See, this is what we have to do more. Right. So when it comes to the podcast, I always leave it on an animal question, and it's because I love animals. So if you could have any animal in the animal kingdom as a pet, roughly like the size of a laptop. I don't know why I chose a laptop. I just think roughly the size of a laptop sounds a good kind of scale, I guess. I don't know why. But any animal, what would you choose and why?
I don't know if they're the size of a laptop, but quokkas.
Ooh, wait, what's that?
Have you heard of them? Okay,
I've
you should
never heard
definitely you should Google them real quick because they're absolutely adorable. They always look like they're smiling,
Quackers.
and they just look so stinking cute. I just can't help it. It's like as soon as you pull them up, you're just
they
like,
are.
right? Aren't they adorable?
They're awesome.
I would love one.
Yeah.
I would love.
That's a great choice.
Yes.
Wait, are they? They look like they're in Australia. Are they Australian animals or something?
I think they might be actually. I don't know. I think they're very rare, and obviously you're not allowed to have them as a pet. I looked that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're quite rare. I think actually you can only find them in certain areas, but they're just adorable, and I love that smile, and I just want one.
No, awesome choice. It's the first time we've had that on the show. That's good. Awesome choice. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks once again. It really means a lot. And as always, most importantly, like I said at the start, if you guys aren't following Sonja, make sure to give her a follow. You'll be seeing her artwork, her social medias on the background. Obviously, if you're listening on YouTube, if you guys are listening in on the other platforms such as your Spotify, your Anchor, you name it, check the description and you'll be able to access that. And once again, all the links that we've discussed in regards to Nomain, CGMA, you name it, you'll be able to access that. And once again, make sure to check the timestamps because obviously from now on I'll make sure to include them just so it makes it a wee bit more accessible for you guys. And last but not least, make sure to subscribe if you've not subscribed already. Smash the like button and turn on notifications. And thanks once again, Sonia. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks for doing that.